hit a lot of pretty intense questioning as you've gone around. And you have a lot of support, and we distribute in the northwest, north central area of the state, about 8 counties in this area, and that's our primary trade territory for our publication.
Yeah.
A lot of interest in you, and what's going to look different, like 2 years into a Stitt administration, what's going to look different about Oklahoma state government?
Well, I think I'm going to do tons of things differently than the old administration. To me, the old administration is much more like my opponent. It's just more of the same. I mean, my opponent's been in government since 1974. I don't think a lot's going to change. And I think Oklahomans are ready for an outsider and more of a business approach. So specifically, to me, running state government is more like running a business, because it's a $20 billion budget with about 120 different agencies. And we have to run those departments efficiently and effectively. We've got to get dollars into our rural hospitals, into our roads and bridges, into our education system. And the way you do that, we don't have any different issues than they do in any other state, but we have some structural problems, and I'm going to change that. My opponent has said there's nothing wrong with the structure of state government. I think that's a huge difference between him and I. I'm asking for the authority to run those agencies and hire and fire, have reporting capabilities, because until I can hire and fire the agency heads, nothing really changes. They really just spin the legislature in a circle. And I believe in transparency and accountability, delivering better services. So that's a huge difference, and something that I'm going to make sure that we're delivering better services for our citizens.
That transparency and accountability is an issue you're going to speak to.
Yeah, we've asked several candidates about this Freedom of Information Oklahoma Open Government Pledge. Is that something that you would sign for transparency if you're elected?
Oh, 100%. And I'm even looking at software where we can have a data warehouse, and we can give you guys access, the media, to actually pull data yourself instead of waiting 6 months for an open records reports. I believe in transparency. I think you're going to be able to help me hold people accountable. And I'm all about transparency. The whole reason I'm running for governor is to turn our state around. And I'm going to end the politics as usual. And I think that's why I'm sitting here in this position. And I think when we keep hiring people that have been in politics and these dynasties since 1974, they just try to reward their friends, and they just don't want much to change. I just got through meeting with President Gallagher at the University of Oklahoma, and he just told me what a nightmare it was when he showed up, and how people didn't even understand were they making money or losing money, and they were losing $50 million in cash a year. And he was explaining how just it's a travesty what we're doing to our young people, and the debt that they have to take on when they're graduating because of the waste and the inefficiency that's happening. And so I know I'm going to find that all over the place. I've never been governor. My opponent's never been governor. But you have to come back and look at our resumes and what we've done in the private sector. And I'm the only person with a chief executive experience of knowing how to hire the right people and deliver services.
Here in Enid, Lieutenant Governor Todd Lamb, who's an Enid native, was here yesterday for a tourism summit. And he said that he was endorsing you. I just wanted to know, did you realize that, and what's your reaction to his endorsement?
I did not realize that he was here yesterday. I knew he had publicly tweeted his endorsement of me, and listen, I accept everybody's endorsement, but again, I tell people I'm going to do things totally different than the current administration, and I'm going to bring more of a business approach to it. I've never been in politics, never ran for office. I'm a pragmatist. When I see a problem, I just want to fix it. I don't know why it's a Republican or Democrat or rural versus urban. If we're ranked 45th in education outcomes, we're doing something wrong. And I look at how we fund higher ed, for example, compared to all other states. And we're right in the middle of the pack, but our graduation rates are at the lowest. So again, this is going to take leadership, it's going to take vision, and I'm the right guy to lead us there.
One of the issues of fairly intense interest in north central, northwest Oklahoma is energy production and the impact that that's had with increase in earthquakes, reduced somewhat in the last couple of years. How should the state go about monitoring, controlling, regulating both energy production and the impact that may have with earthquakes.
Well, obviously, we're an energy producing state, and so we've got to have those guys at the table on how we are, doing the disposal wells. And I think their industry as an association stepped up to the plate. They worked with some of the, they set up a task force to study what was happening with those injection wells. And just now that we've oversight and we had the Corporation Commission kind of regulate how we were disposing of those wells, you've seen a really reduction in those earthquakes. We got to continue to monitor that. We've got to have those folks at the table, and we've got to study that seismic, things that are happening in our state, and be smart about it, because we know that those are having an effect. But now that we have the right, injection well oversight, that those are really reduced, and I'll be a leader in making sure that everybody's at the seat of the table as we're deciding how to move forward.
Mitchell, did you have a question?
Yeah, I was curious, as I'm sure there's been a lot of talk about what the legislature will look like with 149 brand new people coming in, like 60% or so with 2 years experience or less. As someone kind of new to the political realm yourself, do you see this as a strength or a weakness, or how do you see it?
I actually see it as a positive. With all the young people, I think there's about 70% freshmen is what they're saying it in the Senate and the House. New blood coming into the House and the Senate. They're looking for leadership. I've already called all 101 House members, all 48 senators. Started having, calls, dinner, lunch. I went to Oklahoma City and met with 30 of them. They're wanting to get to know me. They're calling me now that I'm the Republican candidate for governor. They're asking me, what's our plan for education and health care? And here's what I did that's different than I think anybody else. I called the Speaker of the House, I had him come to my office, and I had him bring his 2 lieutenants. I called the President Pro Tem, I had him come. I called Matt Pinnell, had him come to my office. And then I did one other thing. I called Senator Langford and Senator Inhofe, and I had them bring representatives there. And we had a strategy session, stuff I do every single day in the private sector. Just getting people around the table and saying, here's our strategy, here's what we're gonna do to be the most pro-business friendly state, etc. When they left there, they were like, this is the most collaborative meeting we've had in the last 8 years. Senator Inhofe, who is the chairman of the Armed Services Committee, it's a huge deal for our state. I mean, he's going to be able to bring stuff, defense contractors, more economic development, more shoring up our military bases, stuff that's going to help us for 50 years. But he's like, I've never had a seat at the table on strategy in our state. And Senator Langford told me the same thing. I mean, he said, I know stuff that can help our state from Washington, D.C., that can help us, and things that I don't know. And so that's how I lead. I'm going to bring those guys together. They're looking for leadership. They don't have all the answers. You can't lead from the House or the Senate. It's got to come from the governor's office. And so I know I can't do it by myself, so I've got to work with them. But I'm the guy that's demonstrated hiring people in the private sector. I have 1,200 employees, and I know how to bring a team together and point us towards a common goal and getting everybody moving in the same direction. And so that's what I'll do as governor.